Yeah, so we've now finally got some sort of conclusion on that. It was a long old time. I think about 2 months since we originally heard that the deal was complete. On Friday morning, the Premier League finally communicated that he can now sign his contract and be considered a Manchester United player.
Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Academy Review. Joining me as always is Finn, Academy Scoop himself. Finn, how are we doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to talking about the Academy. And can we just make a deal now? We're going to forget about the first team, yeah? We don't need to talk about the first team.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. We don't need to talk about anything first team related when it comes to Manchester United. We just want to focus on the younger players.
Absolutely.
And that's why you're here.
That's
now,
what matters.
It is, and it's usually, there's a good reason for that. It's generally positive news you've got to share with us.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, when we do these reviews. Make sure you are getting involved in the chat and the comments, and if you've not done so already, please hit that subscribe button and go and check out Finn as well on all your socials. Should we start with Obi-Martin?
Yes.
Chido Obi-Martin.
Yeah.
Now, this is a kid from Arsenal, caused a bit of a stir when it was announced he was coming to Manchester United. I think you broke the news, didn't you?
I did indeed. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say who broke the news. It was you. You broke this news, and the likes of Romano and Ornstein were quoting you. We had to wait though, didn't we, until it was ratified. Just explain where we're up to and what happened.
Yeah, so we've now finally got some sort of conclusion on that. It was a long old time. I think about 2 months since we originally heard that the deal was complete, because the Premier League had to go through their ratification process, make sure that the deal was being conducted in a way that's kind of according to all the guidelines, no foul play, no tapping up. And on Friday morning, the Premier League finally communicated that they've completed that process. They're satisfied, they're happy with how it was done, and he can now sign his contract and be considered a Manchester United player. So it's a nice conclusion to the summer business.
It's good that that's just sorted, isn't it? We didn't want any dramas. It looked like there wouldn't be any, that it was going to get done, but now he's here. He is a Manchester United player. Yeah. We can all move forward.
Yeah, and great for him as well to finally get stuck in, because you can imagine how frustrating it must be to watch the season start and you're still only allowed to do, one-to-one individual training away from the main group. So it must be a relief for him and, of course, the club to kind of conclude all that summer business now. And yeah, I think there's a lot of excitement internally about getting it done, and also what the deal means in terms of the recruitment department and what the future looks like in terms of youth recruitment. So it's quite a significant one, and it's now all done. People can relax and look forward to him getting started. I think it'll be a few weeks before we do see him involved, just because they've got to evaluate his fitness levels, having missed the majority of pre-season preparations. But yeah, definitely really looking forward to getting him involved.
Yeah, a lot of hype about this young kid, and rightly so with the goal scoring record he's got. The fact that Arsenal wanted to keep hold of him, the fact that I think there was interest from other clubs abroad as well.
Bayern, Dortmund, City, any top club would have taken him. So definitely good to beat that competition.
It's good to see. This is what I'm talking about. Positive news for once, on this channel, on this podcast.
Can't say the same for the first team.
No, we can't. Let's talk about the under-21s though. We'll get to the under-18s in a little while, but tell us a little bit about the under-21s. What have they been up to?
Yep. So they had a couple fixtures this week. First against Doncaster Rovers in the EFL Trophy. I like the competition. I think it's a good opportunity for some of the younger players to get some experience against seasoned professionals, first team players. So yeah, they won their first game against Barnsley a couple of weeks before with some dramatic late goals. That Jack Fletcher screamer.
Oh yeah.
Can't forget about that. And yeah, so another win, if you can call it that Tuesday. Yeah, it was. So they drew 3-3 at full time, and it went on to pens. 5-3 on pens. All of United's takers stepped up, got the job done, and that means that they get an extra point rather than all three. So they're top of their group now in the North Group F, I think it is. Yeah, I'd say some of the standouts were Sam Mather and Ethan Ennis, both of United's wingers. They looked really bright, really positive throughout the game. I think they both set up each other's goals.
Okay.
So the first goal from Sam Mather, Ethan Ennis, basically, he beats his man on the halfway line, storms down the right flank, runs probably 40, 45 yards, and crosses the ball in for Sam Mather on the edge of the box, works it quite nicely with some tidy footwork, gets the shot off, and I think that was the opener actually.
Oh right, okay.
Really, really bright play from both of them, and then Ennis. Well, Mather returned the favour in the second half. I think United struggled a little bit in terms of the physicality, playing against first team opposition, but they grew into the game as it went on, and in the end got the job done. So it's great.
I want to ask you a little bit about Sam Mather, because he was a name that I heard quite a lot of a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I think he was involved in the obviously that FA Youth Cup winning run.
He was, yeah.
And he's a name that everyone's sort of excited about and wants to keep an eye on. What's his progression been like? Because just from a layman, sort of someone who's not as anywhere near as in tune with the academy as you are, I've not sort of heard as much of him more recently until now you're mentioning him too. How do you think his progression's gone?
Yeah, I think he's doing well recently. Obviously, during that time around the FA Youth Cup, he was very highly thought of. Him and Garnacho were influential from the wings, and I think some would even say at the time that he was showing more promise than Garnacho.
Okay.
He's more of a kind of technical controller from wide areas, maybe a bit in the kind of Grealish mould if we're thinking back when he was at Aston Villa. Really kind of silky, good dribbler. It's got an eye for goal, definitely. But yeah, he's been up and down. He's struggled with injury quite a lot, which is never nice to see. But I think now he's in a position where there's no reason why he can't kick on and get involved if he can stay fit. Because for the under-21s, he's too good for that level. I'd say the same for Ennis actually.
Yeah.
So I think maybe in January he could be given a good loan to a League One side, maybe even lower Championship, to be honest.
Okay.
And have an opportunity to really, get some game time in succession and get that experience playing first team football, because I think he's good enough.
It's good to hear. I'm glad you compared him to Jack Grealish at Villa as well, because Jack Grealish at City, no one's compared to that. What else have you got for us when it comes to the under-21s? Yep,
so they also played on Friday against Norwich. This was in the PL2 at Carrow Road.
Oh,
yeah. And a little bit more straightforward than the Tuesday's fixture. So ended up 5-3 to United. Lots of goals. I think there was 18 goals across the age groups scored this week.
Shocking defending.
Yeah. 17.
All right, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll take it back.
Yeah. Absolutely. This was all about Ethan Wheatley, really.
Right, good. Because I'm interested in Ethan Wheatley, because I've only ever seen him briefly for the first team. I know we weren't going to mention the first team, forgive me. I saw him on pre-season. Not really seen much of him when he's had those cameos, and he has only had cameos, and that's not me dismissing the kid. He's been given these opportunities for a reason. But I'm sort of always curious as to whether he's likely, I know it's difficult to say, but likely to be able to make that step up, because at the minute it's the great unknown really for me.
Yeah, I think he finds himself in a bit of an uncomfortable limbo between the first team and under-21 football, because you could probably say maybe he's above under-21 level now. He shows it in his goal scoring record. So I'd say he's another that would go into the loan category for me. United, I'd say, are set in terms of first team strikers. You've got Xerxes, Højlund, even Rashford, and potentially Chido Obi-Martin.
Yes, you did say that the other week.
Remains to be seen what that order is going to be, but there were rumours that he could come in and be that third or fourth choice striker. So I think for Wheatley, he's doing everything he can right now. So you can't expect much more from him when he's turning up and bagging hat-tricks. But I'd look to give him a loan, to be honest. I think he deserves that chance, like Mather, like Ennis for me, to go and get some first team football and kind of show his worth at another club.
Decent one to keep an eye on, because like you say, can be quick to sometimes dismiss these young players or to make a judgment on, but obviously he's still very young.
You've got to give him time. Not everyone's going to come through like Kobbie Mainoo and hit the ground running at 18. And that doesn't mean they won't be as good, but development isn't linear, and there's plenty of late bloomers who end up reaching the very top, and that could be any of United's youngsters. So got to give them all time to kind of develop. Sometimes
it can be a bit of a double-edged sword with young strikers as well, because they can get judged just purely off goals, and it's like, how many goals has he got? What's he doing goal scoring wise? Where if you're a midfielder, you don't get judged the same way.
Exactly.
That doesn't always tell you the full story, does it? If
not at all.
Someone can be playing really well and not necessarily scoring loads of goals.
It's not the be all and end all, and sometimes there are obvious reasons for why they might not be producing the numbers, and that gets overlooked a little bit. And obviously not, you look at someone like a Xerxes. He's not the most prolific striker, but he brings a lot of value in what he does on the ball and in terms of facilitating his other attacking players. So I think there's a lot more nuance than a lot of people will treat the situation with. But I think you look at a Biancheri, and last season his goal scoring record was nowhere near as good as what he's producing now. But you could see that he brings that value in terms of his link-up play, and so I think it's impossible to judge it by just looking at the numbers.
No, I agree. So a pretty exciting game then at Carrow Road. Ethan Wheatley, who else was involved?
Yeah, so Ethan Williams scored a bit of a wonder goal.
Okay.
United conceded in the 5th minute through Mundell Smith.
I think this is a tradition now throughout the club. So we concede early.
Yeah, just to make it that much harder. Kind of a wake-up call, because I think United started quite slow actually, but they really got going after that. And Ethan Williams, he got on the end of a loose ball so Amas sends it up the pitch, gets intercepted, but it's a loose touch, and Ethan Williams runs onto it, bursts past 2 players near the edge of the box, and creates a scoring angle from wide with his left foot, buries it. And someone pointed out in the replies on Twitter to me that it was identical to a goal that Giggs scored against QPR. It's one of those ones where if you overlay them, they'd look identical, kind of the exact same path. I think I
vaguely remember the Giggs goal against QPR going back many years now.
A real strength of Ethan Williams that was evidenced by that goal is how 2-footed he is. He's one of the most ambidextrous players that I've seen. Honestly, from any angle on either foot, he can make it work. So I think that alone will send him quite far. But he was electric in that first half. He looked really, really positive. So
it's good to see. How did the second half pan out?
Wheatley came on for Ennis actually, so he didn't even start the game. Still got a hat-trick. Within 3 minutes of coming on, he bags his first goal. It was a kind of nicely worked team goal around the edge of the box, and they created a nice cutback for Wheatley to run onto. Puts United 2-1 up, and then a couple minutes later, Malachi Sharp comes up, and he's set up by Dan Gore.
Dan Gore.
Yeah. We haven't seen him in a while. It was Rochdale was his first game back since January actually. So really lovely to see him back in action.
He's been doing a bit of training, I think, with Ryan Hopper with our elite coaching, who Rashford was at, and who Bruno and Fred and Delo and Ilanga have all trained with and coached with as well. So
looks
hopefully
like he's been working hard.
Yeah, I like Dan Gore. He's a good player. I've not seen loads of him. Whenever I've seen him, I've been impressed. I think he's just been a bit unfortunate with some of the spells he's had out.
He's a really high-level midfielder. I think he's got a lot going for him technically, decision-making wise, and he's quite combative, and he likes to get stuck in. So great to see him back after such a long time.
Was it Dan Gore who got the red card against Wrexham? Yeah, I was over in San Diego for the tour a couple of years ago when it was just over a year ago now when Dan Gore got that awful red card against Wrexham. But he is a player that likes to get stuck in, and fans always like those players, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to always get involved, and he's never going to back away from a challenge. And I think that's what fans love about him, and why he's such a likeable player. But he's also got the technical side of his game that sometimes those aggressive players lack. So he can do both. He popped up with his first assist since coming back for Malachi Sharp on the left side of the box. Smashes it home, 3-1 United. So
Norwich weren't giving up though, from what you told me.
No.
So
very late on, they made it an interesting game.
Right.
I think United lost concentration in the second half, and they floated a ball over the top into the box, free header, 3-2. So pulled one back, and then a couple minutes later, I think it was the 93rd, something like that. Finley Welch.
Right.
Scores a bit of a screamer on the edge of the box. Beautiful strike. And at that point, there was a bit of touch and go moment.
Bit of nerves.
Definitely. But Wheatley put it to bed. He'd already scored his second by this point. 2 counter-attacking goals. Because Norwich had kind of piled everyone forward in hopes of an equaliser, United were able to break. Wheatley basically runs the length of the pitch and slots it home, 5-3. Job done. Sounds good. It's good to see the young players doing well, and hopefully we'll see more of them, and maybe even towards the first team. I think Dan Gore for me is someone to keep an eye on. But I'll be following you on all the updates as well, because obviously you're watching these guys week in, week out. Is that it for the under-21s then? Yeah, for this week, yeah.
Yeah, for this week. Should we talk about the under-18s?
Absolutely.
How did they get on?
Quite well, actually.
Yes, I can see your eyes lighting up when I mentioned that one.
They did all right. Just the 9 goals this weekend.
9 goals? That's insane.
I feel bad for Blackburn, actually.
Don't feel bad for Blackburn, Finn, because I will cast your mind back to 1995, All right, I'm guessing you weren't alive then.
No.
Well, I'm not guessing, I know you weren't. But I was a 15-year-old and they broke my heart by winning the title from us, so don't ever feel sorry for them.
Okay, I'll take that on board. But they have conceded 15 goals in their last 2 games and scored none.
Wow, it's consistent, I'll give them that.
Yes.
So
impressive.
A huge scoreline for United.
A little bit unfair, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
Would 8 or 7 have been a bit more accurate, do you feel?
I don't know. It was relentless
throughout
the whole game. I know you say don't feel bad, but you did feel bad because there was nothing they could do.
Listen, I'm not joking, and it's not nice seeing youngsters just getting absolutely battered, even if they're getting battered by Manchester United. I understand your point of view there. I mean, did you manage to keep up with the Manchester United scorers? You must have been.
Well, I was trying to post the clips on my Twitter, and every time I got it out, the next goal had gone in. So,
Jesus.
Just non-stop, really attacking football, really bright, positive on the ball, what we're used to be honest, from this side. I think it did show that some of these second-year players that were instrumental in last season's success could probably do with going up to the under-21s now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Scanlon, Fitzgerald, those kind of players. And I think that will be made possible by the new signings coming in, but obviously that'll take a few weeks to kind of settle. Biancheri is another one who could make the jump up. Just monstrous result, to be honest. I think the goals are pretty impressive, and if we went through every one of them, we'd be here all day. But I think we should talk about the defensive line a little bit, because 5 games this season, 1 conceded. It's not a bad record.
No, it's not.
I think a lot of that is down to the young centre-backs, Daniel Armour and Godwill Kukonki. Absolute giants.
Yeah.
They're 16, the pair of them.
Okay.
Dan Armour's 6'4".
What?
And
That's unreal.
Kukonki is 6'5".
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
16-year-olds in the 6'4" and 6'5".
Yeah.
You think they are Joe
I've
Smith?
never seen that. I mean, they'd be a very tall pair in first team.
Hard to say. They're about a foot taller than Lisandro Martinez, aren't they?
Exactly. But yeah, they've been fantastic all season. They signed their scholarships in the summer, and they've really hit the ground running, to be honest. Kukonki actually usually plays at left back, which is really interesting for someone his size.
You don't see that very often, do you?
No, not at all. I guess maybe with the way football's going, with City and Arsenal playing centre-backs at full-back.
Yeah, you might see a bit more of that. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So quite suited to the modern game in that sense. And it goes to show that he's highly technical. If he can play left-back, despite his size, it says something about his ball-playing ability. And Daniel Armour as well, really, really high quality on the ball. Great passer, great ball carrier. They just look absolute, quality, to be honest. Great pair.
Well, that's good to hear. It's good to hear the youngsters doing well. I wanted to ask you a little bit about Shea Lacey, because he's a player that I think, again, even people like me that don't follow the academy as much, anywhere near as much as you do, have heard a lot about. Yeah. There's a lot of hype around this kid, and I think he was involved as well at the weekend.
Yeah, we saw him come back after about 5 months out.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's a player that's constantly got hype going around on social media, and for good reason, to be honest. He's always been one of the top of his group, both for United and for England, and I think there's a lot of hope in his abilities within the club. And yeah, I think we've got to take things easy because he spent a lot of time injured, and he's still coming back up to that kind of pace. But really good to see him involved, and it didn't look like he'd lost a step. He looked, really dynamic. He got stuck in. Hopefully, he's able to kick on now, because it's a shame when you see players. It was, I think, a thigh injury, and then it recurred, and then just smaller injuries on the side that keep kind of popping up again. So he's struggled in that sense. But I think now's a chance for him to really kick on and get stuck back in and get some momentum building.
Yeah, because that's always a worry with players that age. Is when you do get these injuries, it can sometimes they can never fully recover, or they cannot reach the levels that you expected of them. I think we've seen it in the past with a few younger players. I think, was it Ethan Laird who kept having injuries at a time when he was
really unfortunate.
He was progressing, and you thought he was going to be
He's
the next.
one I thought would be a first team player now.
Yeah, you weren't alone. I remember when I used to see him, it was him and Brandon Williams, wasn't it, on the fullback, and he used to swap around sometimes. It was just great to watch. But he kept getting these little injuries and some more serious, and at a time when there's never a good time, but especially when you're developing. And there's that worry with Shea Lacey. When we talk about Shea Lacey, is there a player that you can sort of compare him to that reminds you of a little bit, or is he just completely individual?
The one that keeps popping up is Phil Foden.
Jesus wept, Finn. We've had Jack Grealish and Phil Foden. Hey, is this the City Academy review? What?
A better Phil Foden is what I mean.
There you go, you see. It's about, fair enough. Is that type of player though? Yeah,
that kind of silky, technical player, really comfortable in the pockets, in the tight spaces, and an absolute wand of a left foot.
Right.
Both passing and shooting, just so much quality in that left foot, and he's not the quickest. He's definitely not slow, but so I could see him kind of playing centrally. He usually plays on the right, but I think maybe his long-term calling will be as more of an attacking midfielder through the middle, because he can really orchestrate things in the final third and get a team ticking. And it was 8-0 when he came off the bench, so I think that says a lot about the quality that's.
Now I am beginning to feel sorry for Blackburn. When you're 8-0 down and Shea Lacey comes off the bench, you must be like, Jesus.
I think it was
blow your whistle, ref.
I think it was 6-0 or something, and Lacey, Amir Ibrahimov, and Jim Thwaites, who are all really, really highly rated attacking players, were all yet to come on, and you just thought, call it a day here.
Yeah, come on, have some mercy.
Yeah.
What about Plunkett? He said it was his first goal, I think you mentioned.
So left back we signed from Aston Villa, kind of mid-season earlier in the year. And he popped up with his first goal. He's looked positive in the few cameos he's had, and he's kind of filling that void that Harry Hamas has left since he's kind of getting closer to the first team. It's early days for him, but positive performances, and great to pop up with his first goal, definitely.
Very positive, like you said, and probably an indication that some of these players are playing at a level below what they should be.
When you see that kind of scoreline, I think it's an indication that some of these players are ready for the step up. And United usually go with a very young team, so I think in the coming weeks we'll see more kind of integration of those scholars that have signed from the under-16s in the summer, and a bit more kind of rotation of the squad. And hopefully the results continue regardless. Just positives all round, really.
Positives all round. You don't hear that very often when you're talking about Manchester United.
No.
Finn, it's always a pleasure chatting to you. It always cheers me up, and I look forward to many more conversations. You're going to be joining us again next Monday. So we'll be going over the under-21s, the under-18s. Make sure you are following Finn on Twitter, on X, if you want to call it that. He's at Academy Scoop, and he's always covering, as you'd expect, the Academy, not just the games, but the news as well. Make sure as well you are subscribing to the channel. That's been Finn. I've been Jay. This has been Academy Review. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.